crafty friends, Christina with you. For this month, we are going to be looking at the delightfully fun fruit salad papers from Stampin' Here you can see I've kind of got them splayed out here so you can see all of the different fruit patterns. They're nice, vibrant colors. And then when you flip them over, you've got some that still have that fruit patterns and stuff, but a lot of them then have like some nice, just small print papers that would be great for any kind of project. So we're gonna feature these this month, and let's go ahead and get started with our first project here. So we are gonna be making some punny little Valentines. Since Valentine's is coming up, I thought this would be cute. As soon as I saw these papers, I remembered a fun stamp set that I have from close to my heart that I will be featuring on this. And it is called You're My Jam. And you can see here, it's got just a ton of little puns here with corresponding fruit. And so, like I said, it just immediately came to mind with this. So we're gonna be doing the pear one today. I think you're Pear-fect. And then as another sample here, I've got this one that you're one in a melon. So just a super fun little idea. So this is a little origami style project that we're gonna be doing. So let's go ahead and get started. Because, like I said, this is an origami style little Valentine, it takes very little amount of products, which is awesome. You don't need a lot of supplies. So I loved that it uses the full 6x6 sheet of these papers, because these papers come in a 6x6 size. And I don't believe I mentioned it earlier, but these are one of the free items that you can get from the Sale-a-Bration special with Stampin' Up! Through the end of February. And so I just love showing ways that you can use 6x6 papers, because sometimes I think it's a little bit frightening, maybe not frightening, but if you're like me, you're used to using 12x12 paper, so you start seeing the 6x6 and you're like, oh, I don't know how to use that to the best, you know, to use it up completely. And so this is a great way to do it. And then I have a little insert card that we're going to be doing, and I have two little of the die cuts. This is a new die set that I have been grabbing for over and over. It is like my workhorse. It's the Around It All dies. I love that it's just like these wonky little circles. And so I have those to go ahead and put my sentiment on. And so it's really just a total of 4 pieces of paper. And then I'm using some of our linen thread to tie it closed. So go ahead and grab whatever it is that you use to score with, whether or not it's your paper trimmer or a scoreboard. And we're going to go ahead and start scoring this 6x6 piece of paper. So I chose to do one that is directional, so that way it would help you. It may be easier for you to start out with a one that's non-directional, but I'm doing this so that way it is easier for you to follow along and understand how this goes together. Okay, so if you're using a directional one like I am, you're gonna want it up and down like you normally would. And so like maybe if you have stripes or something, if you want the stripes to be horizontal, then you'll want them to be horizontal looking at you. If you want them to be vertical, you'll have them vertical looking at you. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna put this in, and we're gonna do our first score at 3/4. So when I'm doing small increments, I always do them on my right-hand side, anything under that 1 1/4 inch, because then I have more stability. So I can go ahead and I put it in 3/4 here on the right-hand side. I'm using my Stampin' Up! Paper trimmer, so I'm using the little gray, the light pressure one that does scoring. So now, since I've already got that 3/4 in, I'm just gonna go ahead and rotate it. So that way, basically 180 degrees, so that way I can continue the scoring this way. So hopefully that doesn't confuse you, but luckily it is symmetrical, so we're gonna end with a 3/4 inch one, so it's not gonna mess you up. So that first one was 3/4, then we're gonna go at 2 7/8, and that is that largest line right before the 3, and then 3 1/8. So that is that first large line. So you've got the 16th one, and then you've got the 8th. So it's 3 1/8. And then we're going to go all the way down to 5 1/4. So since this is a 6-inch paper, remember, so that's 3/4 that I was talking about. So it does have that symmetry. So you've got your 3/4, your 2 7/8, your 3 1/8, and then your 5 1/4. Okay. So now you've got your paper how we started, just like if it is directional, so it's upright, just like I want it to be. You're going to rotate it 90 degrees. And then we're going to do 2 more scores. So we're going to go ahead and put it in. And the first one is going to be at 1 1/4. So I've got that in there, got 1 1/4. And then I'm doing 4 1/8. Okay. So your paper should look like this. I'm not sure if all the lines show through, but now is a great time to go ahead and burnish all of those folds. All right, so I've burnished all of my folds. So the next thing we're gonna do is we are going to make little triangle folds in all 4 of the corners. So basically you're going to take that corner edge and you're gonna go all the way up to that score line so that it meets up to it, and it's gonna basically create a right angle triangle. So you wanna just go up to that score line and go ahead and crease it good. Just bring this closer so you can see. So see, it goes right up to that score line. You don't want it to go beyond the score line. You just want up to that score line. And so you're gonna rotate your paper and do your next triangle. Again, going up to that score line, like that, and then your next one, until you get all 4 of them folded in, like this. This is probably the trickiest part. I say that because I've done it many times, and I know when you're doing origami, sometimes it can be confusing, but I feel like making these tiny little triangles is tricky to do, to get them right up to that seam. So now you've got your paper looking like this with your little flaps in. So next thing you're going to do is you're gonna go ahead and fold back the 3/4 inch ones. So this is when you go ahead and you think about how you want your paper to be, like which side do you want to have be shown the most, and which side do you want your little flap, the fold back flap. So to do the little fold back flap, I am going to go ahead and leave my triangles up like this, and so I'm going to fold this section back. And again, this is a really good project to have a bone folder because you really want to get good crisp folds. So you're going to go ahead and fold down because you want those little triangle pieces inward. So this is what your paper is going to look like once you have it with those triangles done and with the flaps back. So this is if you want, for example, if you're using the pear paper like I am, you want the pears to be the dominant one, you're going to have it like this. And then you're going to flip it over entirely so that way you see the yellow. Then you're going to go ahead and fold down the top piece, fold up this piece, and then you're seeing that the folds don't line up, right? It overlaps a little bit, and you think you might have accidentally scored wrong. You actually did not, because you want it to be like that so you can go ahead and tuck in that little piece there, and it holds it in place. Do you see how that went? We'll do it again on this side. So it overlaps a little bit, right? So you're gonna go ahead and it's almost like this little hook thing. You're gonna go ahead and stick it in there underneath, and it holds those 2 edges together. All right, and so then now is another great time to go ahead and like reinforce those folds. You have like kind of this little spine here in the center, so that way it can go ahead and allow for you to put some candy in it. So that's what I've done here, is I put a little Laffy Taffy in here, and then I have a pull-out card that you can go ahead and write your name on. You can write a message. And so let's go ahead and finish decorating it. So now that we've got that part all done, isn't that so cute? I love how that looks. So like I said, I used the Around It All dies, and we're gonna go ahead and use this stamp set here that's from Close to My Heart. And I'm using the Early Espresso ink. I'm gonna go ahead and stamp that I Think You're Perfect onto my little basic white die cut. And then I'm gonna go ahead and use a foam dot to put that behind my sentiment. I'm going to, actually before I go ahead and put it on there, I wanna take my marker and I'm going to do the Early Espresso, and I'm taking the marker tip instead of the bullet tip, and I am just rubbing it around the edge of my paper just so it looks like I've also layered it with the Early Espresso. So I get that nice extra look of color without having to add any extra bulk. And then I can go ahead and affix it to my garden green and see how it has that look of having a little bit of that Early Espresso on there. It just ties it together nicely. And then that helps pop out the seeds and the stem because we're using that Early Espresso, which is kind of fun. Okay, so then for my linen thread, I used about 12 inches. And then I like to take a piece of the tear and tape, and I go ahead and just eyeball it across the center there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and place my linen thread across it. And in order to kind of get it centered, I just go ahead and go like this and have the 2 ends kind of meet. And then I go ahead and stick that down. And then I'm gonna put 2 pieces of the dimensionals on top of that so that it kind of sandwiches that linen twine in there. Remove the backing here. Place down my sentiment. And you could add more to this, like if you wanted to add some gems or something, but I didn't feel like it needed it. I thought it was nice and simple. I like the punny nature of it. And then for my card, I just went ahead and I stamped the little pear, and I did the little dash lines on there just to give it a little bit of flair. And then that tucks right there into that pocket, which is so nice. And then you can tuck some candy in there and tie it closed. And then to finish it off, all you do is just go ahead and tie it closed once you have your candy in there and your note enclosed. As simple as that. And while I have done this as a little Valentine, you could use this for any occasion. You could just have it be just a little note to somebody with a little treat in there, or it could just be a little note. It's just a cute way to use up those 6x6 papers. I hope you've enjoyed it, so be sure to like this video and to subscribe so you don't miss future videos. And until next time, stay crafty.